September 19th, closing in on fall here, and we've got nothing going on here in Texas. I mean, this pretty much summarizes what's going on here. And there's a surface map. Just kind of a dull pattern, and we're transitioning gradually into fall, and I'm going to show you coming up next week we're probably going to have some changes. So this week is not going to be very great from a weather enthusiast perspective, sorry to say, but I'll at least stick with this, and we'll check things out. So there's the surface map right there. Let me outline the 90 degree isotherm. That's going to cover pretty much this area right here. So looks like most of Texas is fairly warm, definitely unseasonably warm for this time of year. And then out towards East Texas, we got mostly upper 80s. We've had a couple of weak showers, but I looked outside and I can't see them. They're over the eastern tree line. So no footage of that for today. But we're getting a little bit of recycled tropical air. You can see that we don't have like a deep fetch of flow from the Gulf. We're mostly seeing something like this. So as a result, the dew points are kind of lethargic, just lower 70s and upper 60s, and that's one reason we're not seeing a whole lot of precip right now. One area where they do have some stuff going on is out in California. There's a hurricane off the Baja coast, and I didn't get a chance to pick up the name on that, but it's south of San Diego, and that tends to happen late in the season in September and October. This area of California here and the inland deserts can pick up some precip from whatever's down in that region. And as a result, we're also getting some lower 60s dew points up the Colorado River and into the Salton Sea area. So you see that there. So that's definitely bringing a bit of relief down in that area. But man, look at these temperatures out in the San Joaquin Valley. Lots of hundreds, and we've even got 106 there at Merced, which is where the former Castle Air Force Base was. Let's see what kind of drought they've been in. I know California has been in a really bad predicament over the past several years. So if we go to our search engine and put in drought monitor, we'll come up with a site operated by the University of Nebraska with us, I think, some federal funding, and that shows us drought conditions. And yeah, this is bad news for California. They're in an exceptional drought category here, all the way from Bakersfield, Fresno, out to the coast near San Luis Obispo, San Diego, and Orange County. So that's not great for them. Another place that's picking up a drought is the Northeast. So New Hampshire into parts of Massachusetts and upstate New York right there. They're picking up some severe to extreme drought categories. So, but that's normal. Usually there's some place in the U.S. that's undergoing a drought. Unfortunately, over the past several years, it has been California. They've been kind of at the whipping post for a while, and hopefully they pull in some relief this fall. Because when the patterns start picking up, that's kind of the critical time when you get into October, November, and December. That's really when we want to start seeing Pacific moisture starting to come in. So there's a little bit of that hurricane picking up there on the radar imagery just to the south. I don't think we have any Mexican sites up. It's worth a look. We can take a look and put in Mexico radar. The radars used to be in fairly good shape 10 years ago, and I don't know what's happened since then. I guess they've lost funding, or maybe there's been too much turmoil in the federal government there. But let's see. I don't really see any good links here. Most of these are probably going to be just enhanced satellite imagery. So I'm going to put in a site under MX for the top level domain, and this is the Mexican Weather Service right here, smn.cna.gov.mx. Just notice that was a little bit off center. And that takes us to their radar page. Well, it was supposed to. I think they've moved things around here. So it looks like they've just got kind of a preset map there. Radar images, right? Am I misreading that? I don't really know much Spanish here, so I'm just going to look at this for a few more seconds, and if we can't find it, we will take off. So, radares, that should take us there. And they've got the WSR-88D sites listed here on their page. It looks like the only sites that are operational are in the south. Down here near Campeche and Mexico City. They used to have a couple sites up in the north, but those are down for some reason. I guess it's funding or the Civil War issue. A lot of those sites were enterprise electronics radars. I think this is an older image. This is not going to show the hurricane. I just clicked on a random link. September 19th. Yeah, so that's what a Mexican radar image is going to look like. Some cells there west of Mexico City. So that's kind of a neat change of pace there. So let's continue on to our watches and warnings across the U.S. Got red flag warnings in the central Rockies there and Great Basin. Most of everything else is just fire weather watches, and it is very quiet. Let's see, this yellow color appears to be a child abduction emergency, so that's something else related. So man, we are pretty quiet tonight. Let's look at the upper level charts. I'm going to pull up the College DuPage site here. This is the 250 millibar image up at about 34,000 feet. And you can see at the bottom we have 12Z. That's going to be this morning. Well, something changed here. 16. Oh, okay, yeah, I passed the mouse across the very top. Okay, 12Z Monday. Do we have one for 0Z? Let me refresh the page. Upper air maps, continental U.S. 250 millibars. Nope, they don't have the latest data from the radiosonde ascents 1 hour ago. And it usually takes the university and government sites a couple of hours to get up to speed. But if you have RAYOB in digital atmosphere, yeah, then you can have 0Z data, because you can just load it up, any radiosonde data that exists, and then do your map up. And that's what I have set up right here. So this is only 1 hour ago. And so the picture we're seeing right now is polar front jet up to the north. Across the northern tier states there, we're getting a few readings above 100 knots in Montana and North Dakota. And down to the south, we're kind of under a big high. And that high does tend to keep the precipitation shut down. And you can see that the ridge, the high pressure area, is mostly centered on the Big Bend area of Texas down in this area. And East Texas itself is under kind of a weak northerly flow. So basically as you go toward this high, you get more into a suppression of thunderstorms due to the subsidence and sinking motion underneath that ridge. Alright, let's see here. So I guess we're going to just head into the forecast here. This is the GFS forecast showing precipitable water and sea level pressure. And we start out tonight with a big low pressure area across Manitoba. Hang on a second, let me shut off my live feed. That's sucking a little bit of bandwidth down, so there, things should be a little bit better. So there's our baroclinic high across the Hudson Bay area. See that right there? It's probably in the process of becoming occluded and barotropic. And we're looking at a front probably something like that. I can't really find the exact position. I'm going to have to look at the actual surface data to find that. But it looks like the frontal areas are going to be down in the Great Lakes area, somewhere down in there. And behind that, good fetch of westerly winds across the Dakotas and Minnesota. And then far out to the west, high pressure Pacific high, that's bringing in a little bit of cooler air onto the west coast. And that's going to be the source of our next big change after this weekend. And then further down to the south, we can see that hurricane down there in Mexico. See that right there? And Texas itself is under a weak southerly flow. So what's going to happen for the rest of the week? Let's move this forward. Looks very stagnant. We see a little bit more of that moisture move up to the north over Iowa and southern Minnesota, so we've got the potential for a little bit of MCS action up that way. Bit of a northeasterly flow in the North Dakota area, so this is going to be a pretty active frontal zone right here in the Dakotas and Minnesota. And then we see cyclogenesis out in the Central Rockies right here in southern Wyoming. And you'll notice the northwesterly flow strengthens across California and Oregon. So let's see what happens here. I'm going to run this forward into next week. Let's see, we do kick out that low from the Dakotas, and that moves across Ontario. But we stay under a pretty strong fetch of rich moisture in Texas itself. Precipitable water way up above 1 inch. This is more like over 1 inch and 3/4, almost 2 inches here along the I-35 corridor. So that's going to keep the precipitation chances up over the weekend here in Texas. Probably a good chance of rain in most areas. And then that change I was talking about later on, that's going to be later next week, so we're going to have to be patient for this. But you can see a big high pressure area across central Canada. See this? This is all one big high, big polar air mass, and that's going to sink down into central and eastern U.S. as the week goes on. So now we're getting out to October. This is pretty far out, but we see a succession of polar outbreaks coming into the central U.S. and the eastern U.S. So there's one outbreak. This is October 2nd. This this may not be pretty accurate because the models have been predicting this for a while, for like the last week of September. And now it's looking more like early October, so there's a lot of uncertainty in when exactly this air mass will get here. But it does look like it's coming in about a week and a half. Things will get active, and we'll have a lot to look at. And look at this, bringing a whole lot of moisture into the Midwest and Mississippi River Valley. So I think we're going to have the potential for some severe weather too. And then just quickly wrapping that up with the upper level chart, this is the 250 millibar analysis, and you can see that we start out with that strong flow across the northern tier states. We see a bit of a cutoff flow out west towards the end of the week, and a very large ridge across northwestern Canada. And then the Pacific becomes active right here. That kind of breaks away that cutoff flow. And then it looks like we get back into a stagnant pattern for a while, and then we start looking at things becoming very active up north. See that? And then towards the end of the forecast, the last panel, 384 hours, this is crystal ball territory, but they're bringing in this 150 knot flow. I don't think I've ever seen 150 knots up in the Arctic, so if that pans out, that's going to drive us into a much cooler pattern in the first or second week of October. Okay, and that brings us to the tropics. Here's what's going on. Things remain pretty quiet, and there's Carl just kind of wandering around in a drunken stupor. We had Invest 96L around the Cape Verde Islands, now Tropical Depression 13, and unfortunately that looks like it's pretty close to the 15 latitude line, so there's a potential for that. It's more likely than going to recurve to the north and be out of the picture. So that may not make it into the area that we're going to be concerned with. However, there is one thing on the GFS charts Take a look down to the south. Let me set this up right here. September 28th, 192 hours right here. Now take a look at the Lesser Antilles right here in the bottom right corner. And you'll see some sort of storm come through the Caribbean. And we were kind of looking at this yesterday, so it looks like the model is kind of staying consistent with this general idea. So this is going to be a hurricane for sure, at least as far as the model is concerned, coming up towards the Yucatan and then into the Gulf of Mexico. So that may give us a little bit of action on the first week of October. And things also look pretty active here off the Baja California coast. So that other system would probably have a chance of impacting Southern California and Arizona. So where did that Gulf of Mexico system come from? We can change to the Atlantic projection and run this back. Let me set this on the last week of October. So there it is. You see that potential hurricane between Cuba and Mexico. Let's run that backwards. So now we're going backwards, October 3rd, and then over around September 29th. We see it as an easterly wave moving through the Lesser Antilles. And then we track that back. Easterly wave now just north of, I guess, Brazil. But you can see that it's at a pretty far south latitude, down around 5 or 10 north. So that's the reason why these disturbances near the Cape Verde Islands, we're not too concerned with those. What we're watching is stuff a little bit further south. And then we run this back further, and we can see that we should find that disturbance down here around the Ivory Coast. This is 24 hours, and now we're at about now. Yeah, this is current. So this storm looks like it's around Niger right now, or Nigeria. Is there any evidence of it? Here's the Aqua satellite imagery for Africa, West Africa. And I guess we're kind of looking in this area. Don't see much evidence of that system. Again, this is 384 hours out before whatever's down here mixed into the Gulf, so a lot could change. But the general idea is we're watching this area as being the possible breeding ground for whatever comes into the Gulf the first week of October. So our eyes will be fixed on this region over the next week, and we'll see if anything really comes together down there. And let's see, I think that's about all I have here. So let me go over to the chat, and just want to say hello to everybody. Hey to Mike and Lexi and MSS and Ron. I appreciate y'all watching, and I will see you tomorrow at the usual time, 8 o'clock, and hope you have a good evening. Thanks for watching.